Hello everybody. Starting a new build today. It's freezing in here, so I'm actually not starting yet. Going to be building a king-size bed. It's a mixture of hard and softwood just because of what's available. But it's going to be king-size. Side rails are going to be 13/16 birch that I'm going to reinforce with these 2x6s actually, just to make them a little bit thicker. Those are just construction 2x6s. And for the headboard and footboard, I picked up some 4x4s. These are Douglas fir. The 2x6s are just SPF. And I'm going to cut these to 30 inches, maybe 32, and for the footboard. And then for the headboard, I'll probably go 10 inches taller than that, just so you have something to lean a pillow against. I'm not using any plans here. This is all straight out of my head. I do know the dimensions of a king-size bed. They're 76 by 80. And I bought some hardware from Rockler to attach it. That shouldn't be too big of a deal. And these are rated really, really heavy. So they're rated for like 600 pounds or something. So yeah, that's the plan. This will give me some extra surface to run longer screws. I plan on running 1 3/4 inch screws into that hardware. When I cut these to length, I'm hoping to just run a dado the entire 30 and 42 inches, and then I can insert them and I can just cut spacers out of some of this leftover hardwood I have. I have quite a bit of cherry too, so I could accent it with that. I will need to pick up more of this birch. So yeah, another trip to Rockler today or tomorrow will be in my future. I can get it from the hardwood store too, but it's not finished and it's a full 4/4. I actually have some right here, which is fine. I do have a planer, but it's for the extra 50 cents a board foot. It's much easier to use the S3S. So I'll probably just pick up 2 more pieces from Rockler and call it a day. But yeah, first things first, I got to cut these 4x4s to their length and set them aside. I've had them sitting in my shop for a day, and of course, like any other construction wood, they're starting to twist a little. But whatever, once I cut them to length, I can reassess the situation, see how bad we really are. So all right, so got the 4x4s cut. Footboard, I actually went with 33 inches. I still have to take a round over and clean them up, just with the router. And sand them, obviously. They're quite dirty, but they should clean up pretty well. 42 on the headboard. There's some knots in these I don't love, but I think I can orient them so they're on the inside facing the wall and won't really be seen. This piece I'll have to put on the downward side because there's like some chip out there, probably from that knot. So, but yeah, all in all, it should turn out okay. They definitely need to be sanded and cleaned up. So I've got a bunch of batteries charging right now. I should probably sand them and do the round over on them before I run them through the dado. But I will probably get the saw set up here pretty soon. And I actually have to make an insert for it. I bought some of these, just cheap inserts. They're blanks. So you can do 0 clearance or dado. They're set up for a dado. So yeah, I got to do 13/16. So I'll probably get the table saw set up and then start sanding. I'm only up to 40 in the shop here, so I'm still freezing, but it's gradually getting warmer and the sun's helping a little bit too. All right, so I've got the first dado cut made. I did this intentionally, even though it looks like a mistake. It's thicker here because this is going to be in the back facing the wall, and the support boards are going to run across, and that's just not so there's a huge gap for the pillows to lay in. There's more board towards the wall side, just in case I do need to anchor it with a couple screws. They'll be hidden. Kind of just an added bonus. I do need to check to see if my boards will actually fit in there. But I've got it set up of what the manual says is 13/16, so we'll see. It's shockingly smooth. Wasn't that hard to set up. I did have to set up the insert for it too, but we'll give it a try. See what happens. And so it's a little too tight. So I'm gonna back this off, unplug it of course. And I don't have any more chippers, but I do have more shims. So I think I'll add 2 or 3 shims in there and I'll just run it over it again. That should theoretically work. But we'll give it a try. So I added a couple of shims in there, ran it through one more time, got a really good fit. This is kind of how you want a dado to fit. There's no glue in there or anything, but if I pick it up, it takes it with it. So you want it very snug, so when you do glue it, it's a nice tight fit. So this will be the front face side. Obviously this will be the inside, stretching over to the other. So yeah, that's where we're at. I got to run the rest of them through. And then facing the back wall, it's a little bit thicker, just in case I got to run a screw through. I went 1.5 inches in too. All right, so got all 4 of those done. They go in 1.5 inches, so the boards will insert there, glue in, and I'm going to cut spacer boards. The first one's only going to be about 8 inches off, so I'll cut an 8-inch, glue that in, and then I'll lay the board, and then I'll put another spacer board, and then the top board. In the front, we'll probably have 3 instead of just the 2. But again, I'll do the spacer boards, glue them in nice and tight. These need a lot of work. It's really rough lumber, but I'll get sanding here pretty soon, and that'll be great. But that's how we're coming along. All right, so next step, now that I got all those cut, is cutting my 2x6s to length. I'm making these right at 81 inches. A king size mattress is 80. Gives you room to tuck a comforter down the back, hopefully. And then I actually need to notch these as well after I cut them. I got to leave about 4 inches at this and then go 3 inches, 3/4 of an inch down the length of it and leave 4 inches at full on each end. Haven't figured out how I'm going to do that yet. I'll probably raise the table saw blade on it and just buzz it through, but we'll see. I'll figure that out. So here's what I'm thinking, and this is not the safest thing I've ever done. Actually, it kind of scares the hell out of me. I set my fence at 4 3/4, and I'm thinking I can raise the blade up through it and just kind of push it through as far as I can, and then finish it off with a pole saw by hand. Because I'll have a big enough opening that I can just cut down through and cut the wedges out. So I don't really have much to lose. I mean, worst case, I have to buy another 2x6. So, or you know, an injury happens. That'd be the worst case. I've never actually done this. In fact, I've always criticized people for raising the blade through their wood because it's not the safest thing ever. But I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna have to put some weight on the front side to make this work. I can probably use that piece of 4x4 there, and that will work. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna pause this for a minute. I'll set it up somewhere where you can see it happening. Okay, so I did get it up through, stopped it right there, and I'll finish the rest with the hole saw. All right, so I actually stopped that pretty close to where my line is going to be, so not bad. This end I'll have to rip quite a bit by hand. What I did was I ripped start and stops on it, and I managed to get it about where I wanted. So I'll try to get that cut off of there right now and see what we can do. I'm just using a little straight saw, flush cut saw, whatever. It will do. And see, because the blade's round, the top didn't get all the way, so I'm just gonna buzz that off by hand too. so there's that portion. And that's what I was trying to do, just so the boards I run across have kind of a area to sit. And I'll finish off this end real quick and just show you. So it's definitely not the cleanest I've ever cut anything, but it will work. Yeah, boards will rest right in it. And I still have enough room to mount the hardware. So yeah, I got to clean it up a little bit. Okay, finally got that done and as clean as I could. I'm setting them out so any grain that's showing is on the outside. Just once this is finished, that grain's really going to look pretty awesome. And that's what I was doing there. Because I'm going to lay some 1x4s, which are actually about 3/4 of an inch, or I may grab 3/4 inch, you know, furring strips, like 1x4 furring strips, something along those lines. I wanted to put that down a little ways so it would be more flush with it. So yeah, that's why I did that, and that still leaves enough room for the brackets to mount on there. So yeah, and then the mattress will still sit down a ways, even with the furring strips. We'll have, you know, 1.5 inches or so that the mattress goes in. And this one I did the same thing with the grain. I'm going to leave it on the outside. I really got to clean these and glue them still, but just giving you a general idea as to what it's going to look like. So yeah, and this is the inside. Nobody's going to see this. This knot is part of the reason I had such a tough time cutting this thing. So now that they're all cut, I just cleaned everything off real quick. I have to glue these. They're all lined up the way I want them, and I've got my clamps out. I've got some tight bond too. I'm just worried because once I leave the garage tonight, it's going to get down to like 30 in here. Which it'll probably be okay, don't get me wrong, but I really want it to glue up well. I am going to run some screws through it tomorrow after the glue's dry. But I figure 4 clamps and a good hefty amount of glue should hold. And then I'll probably do 8 screws going down it as well. But yeah, I'm going to get the glue ready and spread it on there. I tend to go pretty heavy on glue. You can always take the excess off, but you can't add more. And I do wipe off my squeeze out, stuff like that. Use my patented glue spreader, blue paper towel. And I know this is about the most boring part to watch. So we'll take a minute and thank today's sponsor, me. Doing this all on my own, no sponsors, just kind of like doing it, and my girlfriend wants a king-size bed. And her 2 cats are kind of bed hogs, so I am A-okay with it. Queen is not cutting it anymore for 2 cats. And yes, I could have bought one for cheaper than this. I mean, the construction lumber is cheap. If I wanted to make it out of all 2x6s and the 4x4s, yes, but the hardwood's really pricey. Need a little bit more. When I clamp it, it'll squeeze tight too, which will spread the glue a little better. But so right when I get one side perfect, it gets a clamp, and then I can finagle the rest. knocked my camera over. But what I'm trying to do, because this is such a long piece, I want to get another clamp here. So I'm going to spin this so it's laying across. Then I can put more clamps on it. Just got to go around and wipe up the excess. A lot easier to do it now than when it's drying, or when it's already dry, I should say. The more you take off, the less you have to sand off. And this is where we're going to stop for the night. Just going to let the glue dry. I've got it relatively warm in here now. We're at a little above 60. It'll take a couple hours for it to cool down. So the glue should still dry up, I would assume. All right, back at it. I did a rough sand on the 2 tall posts. But as you can see, just being construction lumber, these are really pretty rough. So I'm going to go over them with a round over bit with the router. I really don't love using a router. I'm not very comfortable with them. I've got it secured pretty well. What I did was just in the Dado, I used clamps to hold it down. But I'll hit all 4 corners with that and see how it goes. So yeah, we'll see. I rounded that a touch more than I wanted it to, but I don't dislike that look. So maybe I'll just do all of them like that. So got all these routed the way I want them. See, they just rounded over. Took me a bit to get my router adjusted for this softwood. I've had it on almost the maximum setting the entire time. All right, so just test fitting the hardware here. Got it roughly screwed in, just 2 in each to make sure it's correct. I just cut lengths of 2x6 to line them up. I still haven't done this side, but gives you a rough idea what we're working with here. I don't mind getting this out of the way now because I still have to take it apart and finish sanding it. I've got to run a router over these edges here on each of the rails, which again, not really a big deal, just to... All right, so I got my bottom plates all secured. Notice that little gap there, that's where it goes into the actual other side. All right, so I went ahead and ran the router over the side rails. Actually rounded them really nice. I broke it down real quick with just some 80 grit on a orbital. But I think that will be pretty good. I'm only going to sand this to probably 180 before I finish. About to call it a night. Cut my foot and headboard pieces to length. They're 75.5 inches. I may do one more. I still have this piece here, which is probably the best looking piece I have actually. Just in case I need it. I know the headboard's going to take more than the footboard. I could probably just use 2 of these on the footboard and be fine. I mean, it's not that big really. But the headboard, we'll see. I know I at least need 1 of these on the bottom because I have to attach a support beam to it. And I don't know if these 2 small ones and 1 of these would be enough. I may cut that one and just scrap 1 of these. But if it came down to it and I didn't, I could use this as a topper on one of them, either the head or footboard. It would make a really nice one. So I still need to run them through the router just to round them off. I want them to look like this. I'll probably measure back 2 inches or so and then just kind of stop there. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Call it a day. All right, so back at it. It's the next morning. I'm just gonna sand these to 120 grit, all 4 of the legs, and then I picked up some stain today. It's kind of like a whitening stain. They call it white oak, but it's not quite a full whitewash. I just want to lighten this pink a little bit because this birch is really white. Then I got to sand all these. I got to go over them all with the router and round over most of the edges, not all of them. I need a couple of flat ones. But yeah, that's the goal for today. So I'm just going to get sanding these and I'll come back when I'm routing these. All right, just got to run the router over these. These are going to be the cross slats in the head and footboard. This one's going to be a top one. So it only needs to be rounded over on 1 edge, or 2 edges, one side. One of these ones will be the same way too. But I'm just gonna buzz through it real quick, then flip it over to the other side, of course. This is Birch, so I've got this set at the maximum speed, 25,000 RPMs. And actually I've measured about 2 inches out because I don't want to go all the way because these are getting put into a dado slot. And don't be like me, I totally forgot safety glasses with that one. Just so you can see. So this has to go into a dado. So I tried to stop close to that line. Obviously I went a little past it, but just rounding them over a little, smoothing it out. And I got to do it on the other end of it too, and then pretty much all of those. So I'm going to be playing with the router. All right, so I got all of my head and footboard slats. Rounded over and sanded to 180 grit. Because I'm using polyurethane, that's about as smooth as I'm gonna go, because I'll do 2 coats of it. Next, I've got to basically bring these inside, hook them up to the 4 posts, and get some measurements as to where the bottom slats are gonna go. And then really just glue those in place. And then I have to cut some 1.5 inch inserts to fill the rest of that dado void. Yeah, and then I picked up some 2x4s and some joist hangers. I plan on running 2 of these across the bed, just for extra support in the middle. And I'll just hang those with joist hangers. So yeah, making some progress. Still a lot to do, nowhere near done, but moving along. So I didn't have any clamps that were long enough, so this is what I came up with. Alright, so I just took all this apart and I made a couple of top boards for the headboard and footboard. Just used a router, went around. They're not perfect, but I think they'll work well on this. This one has some impressive grain in it for birch. I decided to go with birch instead of cherry. That was my initial plan, but I had the leftover birch, and I mean I have some cherry too. My router had a couple little issues. There's a little mark here, another one here where it hit a knot. I don't think anybody will notice that though. Leaving these facing in, so both of these Huge roundovers will be facing the mattress side, and it'll just be not quite square edge. They are rounded over on the outside, but just like that. So yeah, I think that'll work out pretty well. The wood's bowed a little bit because it's so cold outside and warmer down here, but I'm just gonna leave them in place for the night. Hopefully they flatten out a little bit. If not, I'll use clamps when I glue them down. So yeah, that's where I am. All right, got the first top board on. It's in clamps right now. I used Type Bond 3 for this one. My hardware store was out of my normal wood glue, so I went with Type Bond 3, so I have to leave it in clamps a little longer than usual. Should do. I think I have a plug cutter, so I'll probably drill a hole into each post and widen it to 3/8, about halfway down, and wind a 3-inch screw through each one. And then I can just fill it with a plug. I'll see how strong it is before I do that, because I hate to mess up the grain in this one. I mean, look at this. For birch, this is quite impressive. So yeah, I don't really want to mess with it too much, but we'll see how everything goes. All right, so I sprayed the first coat of that on. It went on fairly smooth. I just want to, so this is that water-based poly, and see how plain this looks? It's very white. You can see the grain, but now take a look at this. Granted, this has more grain to it, but you really see everything better. It almost penetrated the wood a little bit more. This actually sprays more like a lacquer, only it's indoor safe, and there's really no fumes from it. I'm doing this in my basement and it's completely fine, but this is a much better finish, I think. It's still wet, and it does say to sand it with 220 before you do anything, but if you look close, you can kind of see that it's a little spattery, and that's probably why. So yeah, I'm gonna do the rest of the bed in this. And these, I mean, it's kind of too late now. There's 4 coats of poly on them, but I'll probably just hit them with a paper bag and shine them up a little bit. But yeah, other than that, this thing's almost done. All right, so I got both of the foot and headboard sprayed, multiple coats. Now I'm actually just going over them with 600 grit sandpaper. And I don't know if you can see it, but see that texture in that from the spray cans? This just kind of levels it out a little. You can still see it a little bit there, but I've only gone over it very quickly. I don't want to use anything too aggressive. And then, I don't know if you actually can do this, but I'll probably use like a dual action polisher or something just to try to flatten it out, or maybe just rub it down with a paper bag. I don't really know. We'll see if we can get it shiny again. But it's got several coats on it. This 600 shouldn't chew it too deep. I have some 1500 and 2000 automotive paper too. This is actually automotive paper. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. I'm going to go ahead and just go over both of these real quick. This one is actually much smoother than this one was, but and if it comes down to it, I may just brush another coat on with the water-based instead of spraying it, because that does lay on a bit smoother. But my goal is just to get it flattened out so it doesn't have that rough texture anymore.